What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we are talking Wildcard Draft for Game Week 24. I've been asked a million times this week to do this video. Not literally of course, but literally a million times. Do a wildcard video. When are you going to do a draft video for Game Week 25? When are you going to do a draft video for Game Week 26? When are you going to do a draft video for Game Week 24? Here we go, right? This is not going to be a draft for 25 or 26 because ultimately we don't know what's going to happen next week. Things change so quickly. Look at all the injuries this week. It's changed our thinking. People are activating wildcards. People are stopping bench boosts. All sorts of things can change in a week, right? So I'm not going to do a draft for the next couple of weeks, but I am going to touch on the pros and cons of doing a Game Week 24 wildcard, and part of that will be talking about why 25 or 26 might be better. Not definitely better, right? Ultimately, you're going to have to look at your own team and make the decision for yourself, but I'm going to talk about that in this video. So if you've been waiting for this video, please do give it a like. Hit subscribe if you're new around here. Let's jump into it. So first of all, as ever, we should look at Ben's spreadsheet, right? Because he's updating it every single day with the fixtures out of the way, right? The brown, or gold as some people will say, fixtures are the ones that should almost certainly double in Game Week 26. And as I keep saying, right, and I'm sure Ben would agree, this is not 100% set in stone. Just because it's on this spreadsheet doesn't mean it will definitely happen, right? The Premier League could rearrange things in a certain way. The reason why he is so confident about Game Week 26 is because it's looking at when there's midweeks free to slot games into, right? So usually he's pretty spot on with the big double game week like 26, but some of the smaller ones that are in like blue are not guaranteed to happen. So right now it's tricky to know how much to make of that and whether to bring players in just in case. Realistically, if you're wildcarding, there's 3 game weeks you're looking at. You're looking at the fixtures that are already rearranged for 24, the fixtures that are rearranged for 25, Leeds versus Southampton double game week, and then the brown ones in game week 26. You could potentially get players from, target teams with the other colours, but it's less likely they will have a double game week. So most of those gold ones are because those teams are blanking in game week 29. So we now know there's going to be 4 fixtures in 29, right? I might try and touch on this a bit next week. I can't really go into too many details in this video, but there's 4 fixtures on, which are going to be, I think it's Arsenal, West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Leeds and Fulham, and then Spurs and Villa. Now that game is not confirmed 100% in game week 29. Those 2 teams will blank because of FA Cup and stuff, but that is one of the 3 weeks they could be slotted into. So he's saying almost certainly Spurs versus Villa is expected to be in that week, but not guaranteed. That does help a lot of people, though, who don't have free hits, because Spurs and Villa look good for double gaming, right? Villa should have Leeds and Everton or Sheffield United, and Spurs will have Burnley and Fulham or Southampton. And then they've got pretty good fixtures in between. And then they also play in Game Week 29. So if you've not got a free hit, Villa and Spurs are definitely teams you should be targeting. So this is the updated list after last night's results. Obviously, Chelsea went through, so they've now got Man United, Liverpool. Not a great double game week. Liverpool should have Sheffield United and Chelsea. Again, 1 bad fixture. Man United, again, Chelsea away, Crystal Palace away. So 1 good fixture, 1 pretty bad fixture. So study that. Follow Ben on Twitter. Let's get into the pros and cons of a wildcard this week. So remember, this is should I wildcard for Game Week 24, right? I'm not really looking at 25 and 26 right now, but I will touch on some of those points. Hopefully this is easy to read. I'm going to talk about it anyway, so you don't necessarily have to read what's on the screen, right? So the advantages, obviously you can attack 3 double game weeks, okay? If you wildcard in 25, it's just 25, 26. But you can attack 24 as well. So a lot of people, for example, like me, right, if Calvert-Lewin was out, I'm probably going to have 4 double game week players. That doesn't necessarily mean there is not more that could be attacked, right? Could you go for an Everton defender, for example? Bearing in mind now, because Everton are through in the FA Cup, they should probably have quite a good double game week in 26. So Luca Dean, for example, is someone you could put into your team if you wanted to. I've only got 1 Burnley defender. Could you easily have 2 Burnley defenders in your wildcard team? Absolutely. Could you have Pope or Areola? Yes. So you can attack this one, but also set up for 25 and also be in a pretty good position for 26 as well. So that's something to think about. I think one of the things with the Game Week 18 wildcard was that you could attack the free hit, the Game Week 18 blank and the Game Week 19 double. That's one of the things for Game Week 24. You can attack 3 doubles. You'd also have transfers to deal with Game Week 25 and 26, right? This is almost sort of a disadvantage as well, because yes, you'll have 1 free transfer in 25 and another one in 26. So if anything goes wrong or more fixtures get rearranged, yes, you've got transfers to deal with that. But also at the same time, you haven't got a wild card to deal with it, right? So that's something to consider. Sometimes having transfers is better though, because you can attack this double, then prearrange to transfer those players out. But again, if you get other injuries, you then have more things to deal with. Suddenly you're into hit territory, and potentially the advantage has not been as big as you first thought. But ultimately, having transfers and attacking 3 double game weeks is decent. And also you can deal with injury concerns, right? I'm having to record this before the press conference comes out, right? All the press conferences anyway. Nick Pope seems to be fine, or at least he's trained. I expect he'll play. If Calvert-Lewin's out, and Justin's out, and Diaz is out, right? Because Diaz hasn't been spotted in training again. Doesn't mean he'll definitely be out, but he could be. Those 3 players, there's probably plenty of teams out there with 3 players there. Yes, okay, maybe you could use your bench instead. But ideally, with a wildcard, you get rid of them, you deal with that. Also, you attack 3 double game weeks. Happy days, right? Everything kind of comes at once. The disadvantage is there's none of these double game week fixtures that aren't already rearranged are guaranteed. Okay? Ben is great at what he does, but there is no guarantee that those fixtures go where he says they will go, right? I'm sure that game week 26 one will be a big double, right? I'm not disputing that. But even in that list on the sheet that I did at the start has like this team plus this team or this team. So you still don't know exactly what fixture it's going to be. Now for Spurs, for example, it could be Burnley plus Southampton or Fulham. Whether it's Southampton or Fulham probably doesn't make a big difference to your transfer plans. You're still going to want them. But for some teams it might, right? And also, there could still be more rearrangements. Like Southampton, for example, have got a few rearrangements to make. I'm not even going to edit that. I'm going to leave it in. Rearrangements to make. And also have a double in 25. But next week, for example, you could find out that, yes, they got one in 26 and 27 guaranteed. Therefore, you load up on Southampton. Right now, I'd be erring on caution. How many Southampton players do I want? Yes, they've got a double in 25. One of them is Leeds, decent. The other one is Chelsea, not so good. What if they don't double straight away after that? Then I'm stuck with them. There's all those things to think about. Obviously, one of the things you could do with a wild card is use your bench boost now if you've got a good bench over this week or next week, and then wildcard out of that expensive bench. Now, having a playing bench is good, but there's a difference between a playing bench and an expensive bench, right? So on mine, for example, my cheapest defender is like 4.7 million, I think, so foul. I've got David De Gea I want to get rid of. I've got 8 good attackers. I want to get rid of one of them. If you wildcard now and you haven't already bench boosted, you're going to have to think about that. So you're going to have to put maybe a few more players on your bench. And again, your wildcard draft will depend on whether you've used your bench boost. If you have, that's not a disadvantage, of course. You don't need to worry about that. You just get your first 11 out. And also, if you're using it now and you haven't already thought about whether you should use it, you can't dead end your team, right? So dead end your team means if you knew you were going to wildcard in game week 26, in 24 and 25, you are just making punts for those weeks, right? So Cavani, for example, I've seen a few people use him. He might not be a player that you want long term, but for West Brom and Newcastle as a punt, okay, if he misses one of those games, so be it. You get rid of him on your wildcard in game week 26. You can't do that now. That's not necessarily a reason to not wildcard, but it's something to think about. You can't take any punts. You've not thought it through about doing it before. And by the way, I didn't think about wildcard in game week 18 until the fixtures got changed, right? So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just something to consider. Game week 25 wildcard would mean, for example, you could get in loads of Game Week 24 players and then wildcard them out. Who wants Burnley players long term, for example? Game Week 26 wildcard means you've got Southampton and Leeds and the Game Week 24 double out of the way. You can take hits or maybe make transfers just to play those. And then you forget about them and just move from Game Week 26 onwards. And again, then it gets into different territory. Like, do you have your free hit or not, right? Because if you haven't got your free hit, then managing Game Week 29 might be a little bit more difficult. And so you'd have to load up on Spurs or Villa's players. The thing is, they've got good fixtures anyway, and they're good options. So you could just get them in and wildcard in Game Week 30 once all the blanks and doubles are over with, apart from the one in Game Week 33, which we won't talk about right now, and then wildcard for the rest of the season. So there's loads of different reasons to do it in different weeks. I can't sit here and tell you which one is the best. You'll have to look at your own team, think about the fixtures, and then go from there. But for this week in particular, Game Week 24, we might look at more game weeks next week, but for this week I'm mostly looking at game week 24. To me, they are your advantages and disadvantages. Let me know if you've got any more in the comments below. Okay, so this is a draft I've come up with, but I'm going to do some tinkering to kind of show you some changes that you could make and where I kind of foresee issues, right, with doing the wildcard this week. And I'm not trying to put people off, right? For some people, I've seen some great wildcard drafts out there. Maybe you can come up with something better that fits your team, that fits your strategy, right? This is something that I've thought about. I've actually got 4.1 million in the bank. and I'm kind of struggling to spend it a little bit, and I've already got Sterling in there. No Salah. I do think sacrifices probably have to be made over the next few weeks if you want double Spurs and you want to keep Fernandes or you want to keep Salah. One of those two probably has to go, because Son and Kane are big options. You could have Kane in right now and put Son down to someone cheaper. But for this team, you have Areola in goal. For Game Week 24, you have Areola with a double game week for Fulham. I think Fulham's double game week is not that bad. Right, Everton, Burnley, he's only 4.5 million as well, so you're not keeping massive amounts on your bench. And he also has, I don't know if I can scroll down. I can't scroll down to show you. Oh, you can see it there. He has Spurs at home still to play. So he still has another double game week. Not necessarily the best game for Fulham, of course, but they haven't been conceding too many goals, and for saves, he could be decent as well. And then I've got Martinez in because Villa also have fixtures to rearrange, and he should probably have quite a good double game week in 26 as well. Like, Villa is definitely a strong point that I'm thinking about, right? Villa and Spurs in particular for game week 26. So you have Areola, you got me and Loughton, so you got double Burnley defence and only one City defender, because you don't really want to be probably playing four at the back this week. So Loughton, Cancelo and me. Obviously you could go for Diaz, but is he fit now? We'll have to wait and see later. You might even know before this video goes out or after it goes out. Or you could go for Stones instead if you wanted to stick with the centre-backs and pay a little bit less. And then you got double attack. So this is probably one of the advantages I kind of did talk about when I said attack 3 double game weeks, but a lot of people don't have Sterling. If I was wildcarding, I would be thinking of a way to have him and then maybe downgrade him later on if I wanted to, or move him to someone else, because I just think not many people are doing that. It might backfire, right? Double defence could still pay off, especially for those with Cancelo or Stones if Diaz is injured. But if Diaz was out, I'm sorry for all the ifs and buts, but I need to get this done before the press conferences. If he was to be out, then obviously that does put a dent in the City defence, right? So maybe it's not quite as good all of a sudden. So Sterling is someone I would think about. So you've got 3 City, 2 Burnley and Areola. So you've got 6 double game weekers for game week 24. Obviously, if Calvert-Lewin was fit, which I just don't think he will be for that first game, he could come in as well instead of Watkins. That would give you 7. And you're also kind of set up for game week 25 as well. You've got your 3 Leeds players, Dallas, Rafinha, Bamford. I think they are the best 3. You could have Harrison, you could have Alioski instead. But in terms of the best 3, I think most people would go for them. And then Danny Ings as well. So you've got 4 for double game week 25 as well. Obviously, again, one of the things is, will Ings have more fixtures after that? Because if not, there's a lot riding on the Leeds game. I don't expect too much from Southampton against Chelsea. It's a transfer that I'm thinking about doing for my own team, but I'm leaving it till next week to fully decide to do that. And then in terms of double game week 26, what we think will happen based on the spreadsheet at the start, you got Martinez in goal, you got Shaw and Cancelo. You also have Burnley who have a double, but you probably wouldn't want that. You could swap them to someone else in game week 26, whoever you thought had the best defensive fixture. Sterling and Gundogan and Fernandes and Son will all double, and then probably Ings, probably Watkins. So it just leaves you with Bamford, right? So the ideal situation is to bring Kane in. So you could take Bamford out. Now I haven't got enough money, and again, caveats, you might have different team value, etc. You might not be able to afford anywhere near this team. But I'll be looking for ways to get Kane in, right? That could be for a hit. You could have rolled a transfer. It could be just Ben Mee down to a 4 million defender. There's options there how you can play it, right? But I would do something like this. I'm not saying you have to do this. You could want Nick Pope in goal, for example. You might want to go for Luca Dean. But I think this gives you a good option for 24, 25 and 26 without going completely mad on all of them, because if you start adding Luca Dean in here, I feel like you're just adding extra transfers down the line, which is something I wouldn't necessarily want to do. Like, another way to get the money back would be Sterling to Grealish, for example, if you wanted to target Villa's double. But Man City, by all intents and purposes, are going to have 2 more doubles after 24, and also a pretty good one in 26 anyway. So Sterling is someone you might want to keep. So I actually quite like this. Actually, now I've done this with Kane there, I'm actually going to go back and look at my own team and think about how I could maybe do something like this. Maybe how I can get Sterling instead. Could I take that punt? Obviously, the problem with no wildcard is it takes you a lot more transfers to get through it. But I think something like this, there's probably something that I've missed. One thing I will say, going back to that spreadsheet at the start, is that for me, there isn't a standout defensive option in game week 26 that's not Man City. Like, all the big teams, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, if they double, they've almost certainly got one weaker fixture and one good fixture. They haven't got like two really good fixtures. Like sometimes you'll see like West Brom at home, Fulham away, and you're like, right, I have to have a defender for that. It could be that you go for a Spurs defender, but right now Dyer seems to have been dropped. Reguilon's injured. So having someone like Luke Shaw, who also has pretty good fixtures afterwards, I believe. So after 26, okay, Man City's not great, but then West Ham, Crystal Palace, Brighton, for defensive purposes, I would say they're quite good. And if you were worried about Luke Shaw not necessarily starting every single game, you could go for Wan-Bissaka or Maguire instead if you wanted to be absolutely sure. But I quite like this. I think it's a bit different when you go double attack. You've got 4 in there, Dallas, Rafinha and Bamford, who I've swapped for Kane. But again, it doesn't have to be Bamford that you swap, right? It could be Danny Ings if he doesn't double. You keep Bamford and Watkins, whatever you want, right? That's just a starting template. So that's the pros and cons. That's kind of the draft that I've gone with. I don't think I've really missed anything out. I've got on my other screen the FPL thing, but I don't think so. I mean, you probably can find a way to keep Salah. But I think dropping one of him or Fernandes does make things easier if you want to double up on Spurs. I know a lot of people have looked at the stats and said they're not done great recently, but they did have some pretty tough fixtures and they have now stopped. They are going to have some pretty good fixtures after Man City in Game Week 24, which is why I wouldn't want to start with both Son and Kane for Game Week 24. So that's the draft. Let me know below what you think. So that is it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give it a like and hit subscribe if you're new around here. I'll be back with some more stuff before the deadline, probably captaining a deadline stream. So make sure you have hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And if you want to check out the latest Patreon Q&A, you want to get on Slack, you want to see team reveals and stuff like that first of all, then make sure you sign up to Patreon. Link in the description below. Everyone that signs up goes up on the Legends wall. We're well over, I think we're over 250 now. It's absolutely mad how big the support has been this season. So thank you very much to everyone that signed up. And a big thanks to Dean E, Dara G, Evan C, and Reese C as well, who have all signed up since the last video. So if you want to check it out, link in the description below. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. I'll see you later today, if not tomorrow, for some more FPL content. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.